Hey guys, Pat here from Green Country. God is good all the time, and I'm going to get ready for winter time, and that constitutes anything from putting up wood and making sure it's dry. We usually keep a couple of years ahead on the wood, so we're working on that. We're also working on our wood stove. We burn wood about 9 months out of the year. Today, our wood stove, we bought the wood stove. Well, I don't remember when we actually got the stove, but it's been in service for several years, and so now I need to change out some of the fire brick inside of the stove. I don't recall what model it is, but it's a quadrifire wood stove. This is a primary source of heat. Heidi does most of her cooking on the wood stove, if not all of it, in the winter time. And we heat water on it. We also, obviously, we heat the house with it. So we need to make sure that that stove is in optimal working order in order to get us through the winter and spring and fall. So I have to replace some of the gasket in the glass, and the part around the wood stove is okay, but I need to replace the glass gasket. It's really important to maintain a clean chimney, and also to maintain an airtight wood stove. That maximizes your control, maximizes your wood usage. So as you can see, we have a big wide surface on the stove here. I got the biggest stove that I could get and actually put in here. There used to be a insert in here, and we had this alcove put in here to maximize our heat and also to allow us for area for cooking. So this is halfway recessed into the old fireplace opening, and so we had that done years ago and put a stainless steel stovepipe in, and so it's been a real good stove. And like I say, we use this thing for our primary source of heat. And so there's a fire going in this thing about 9 months out of the year. So as you can see, the bricks in the back there are chipped away and broke. You stick logs in there and they smack the bricks, or just normal wear of putting wood in, cleaning it out. All the scraping and grinding that you do when you're making those movements will cause your bricks to wear out. So it's time to change some of this out. And what I'll do is I'll change them all out. It means I'm at it, so that's what I'm up to today. Alright, what we have here is the gasket keeps slipping out from back behind the door, between the door frame and the glass. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put a little bit of the gasket adhesive on the back side of the door to hold it in place. So everywhere around the door, gravity's not an issue. It's been holding in place, and it's been sandwiched in with these little retainers here. With these retainers, they go in here and then they just screw onto the door. So I have to remove these. There's 4 of them total, one on each side, one on the top, and then one on the bottom. And all 4 of those have to come out so I can remove the window, so I can install the gasket material. So gasket materials come in all different shapes and sizes. Here I've got, I think it's 3/4 or 1 inch gasket. Oh, it says right there on that package, a 3/4 inch by 1/4 inch thick. So they come in different thicknesses and different widths. And I'll get to taking and removing the gasket, the old gasket, off of there. So we use our stove so much that we wear these handles out here quite often. They'll wear on the inside where it runs. The handle actually, it's made of 1/2-inch steel rod, and it actually runs through the door and is threaded on this end and holds this little cam in place. And that's the door latch for the door. So the weak link for this stove is the handle. It gets wore out. Instead of buying these handles, I go ahead and make these. I think Heidi's got a video on me making one of these handles here. I'll show you if I can get this thing off of here easy enough what that looks like. Now typically I would advise anybody to smack on the end of this, but I do have a tap and die set. I can re-tap this. This is also not a hammer. Okay, the weak link to this stove, and probably any stove out there, is the shaft that runs through here that gets exercised all the time in the door. This part here gets wore out. When I change these out, they wear down about 1/8 of an inch on the one side. So then it doesn't seal very well when this shaft gets worn, because this is sloppy inside of this hole here through the door. And so this exercises all the time, and after a while it really gets wobbly. I used to buy these, and they're pretty expensive to purchase, so I just get 1/2-inch rod and make my own. I take this part here and just put it on the new shaft here, the handle, and put it on the new shaft. So I made this one this last fall, and it's the first one I've built, and it seems to be working out just as good as one you can buy, but for a fraction of the cost. So anyway, I think Heidi probably has a video on our channel that shows how to make this handle here. That's down to the bending of the metal and threading it and making this little stair step here so the washers have something to rest against. And also there's a little flat part on here where there's a little keyway, and the keyway is actually for that small key to keep the shaft or to keep the handle and the cam here from rotating against each other or just spinning free. I want to go ahead and take that out and inspect it. Take a look at it. Okay, here's my old gasket. As you can see, it's pretty well frayed. Okay, it's real important that you clean the surface where you're going to make the contact with the adhesive, or the glue obviously won't stick to the adhesive and the gasket. So here I have a stainless steel brush, and I'll just go ahead and get that cleaned up. Well guys, I couldn't take it. I had the glass out of it, I had the handle out of it, I cleaned up the inside of this. I thought, well, I might as well just go ahead and give it a quick paint job. I just have some high heat stove paint here on hand, and I'll just go ahead and shoot this real quick. And this paint dries in 30 minutes, so I went ahead and sanded down the door. And again, you've seen me still brush this in here. So I wiped all this down with acetone after I sanded the outside of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit it with this paint here and just freshen it up. Okay, we'll go ahead and let that dry out. Give it 30 minutes or so, and I'll actually spray the inside of the door just a little bit to help that adhesive stick a little bit better. Also have the handle shot here, and that'll just freshen it up. Okay, I'm ready to put the gasket in place. Again, this is a 3/4 inch wide by 1/8 inch thick gasket material. I got my glass all clean. So I've got the door all painted, and I got the track all cleaned up here, the contact points where the gasket material is going to be adhered to. When I put the last gasket in, I did not adhere it. And it wasn't adhered when I purchased the window that way, so that's why I didn't adhere it the last time I replaced this gasket. But I think just a little bit of glue on the inside of this track will just help to keep this gasket from moving around. So I have everything in place. I have all my little clamping bars, for the lack of a better term, ready to be put in place. This particular glue here calls for a 10 to 15 minute wait time after you apply it, where it gets so it gets tacky on here. So that's what we'll go ahead and do. We'll apply a thin layer. We'll go ahead and let this sit for 10-15 minutes to where it's tacky, and I'll go ahead and take some measurements on this and cut my gasket to length here. So we need 52 inches of the gasket. Okay, we're back and we're ready to put the gasket material in. I'm going to go ahead and start from the center bottom down here, and just work the gasket around until it's entirely on the door. Now the thing I have to pay attention to is when I put this on, I want to hide the gasket from where the glass comes up. I don't really want my gasket to show, so I go right to the edge of the metal with my gasket. So I just take my fingers and press into the corners, making it nice and even. Okay, I'll just go around the perimeter of the gasket and just verify that it's not gonna, try my best not to have it sticking out too far, or else it'll be a distraction and show on the front. So I want to go ahead and get that tucked back in there a little bit. I think I'll put a little bit of glue in here just to hold the phrase back a little. Okay, I'm just going to take my glass and just drop it right into the corners here. Just drop it straight down on top of the door frame. Again, I'm going back through and making sure none of the gasket is going to show. So I'm pulling it up just a little bit. Now I left that glue just a little bit moist so I can work this a little bit. With this particular application, I believe it's a little bit easier to leave the glue a little bit moist instead of dried, so you don't so you can actually move it a little bit in this particular application. So now I just go in with my little retention rod bars here, my little clamping bars, and flatten that down. This little thin stick kind of helps to flatten the gasket down. Okay, this is the side where the door is, so I have to make sure that the hole lines up with the slot on the hold down bar here. And the other thing I forgot to mention, you need to slip these bars underneath the gasket right here too, so you don't want to put the gasket, you don't want to put this on top of the gasket. Okay, that completes the install for the gasket for the door. Yeah, I figured while I'm at it, I might as well go ahead and shine these up. I just took a little bit of acetone and some real fine steel wool to shine this pin up. This is the pins that holds the door onto the wood stove, and so I just thought I'd go ahead and shine those up while I was at it. And I think when I go to put this back on the wood stove, I can put just a little bit of grease on there to help keep that turning nice and smooth and not squeaking on us.